everyone. Thanks for joining me today, looking at the brand new 2025 Trek Top Fuel Gen 4. This is the 9.8 GX Axis build that I have here. I'm coming from a Gen 3 owner's perspective. This is my Gen 3 Top Fuel over here. Between this bike and a previous Top Fuel 8 aluminum that I have about 3,000 miles on them, so very well versed in the Gen 3. Just got wrapped up with a long ride today at Bear Brook. Overall, these two bikes, I would say, are more similar than they are different. So any differences that I talk about between these two, we're splitting hairs here. It really is fairly similar. If you like the old Top Fuel, you're gonna like the new one. The seating position, how you sit on that bike, is still relatively similar. You're still more on top of the bike than you are in it. So if you really like that inside the bike, higher stack height feel, this isn't necessarily the bike for you. But if you like that XC kind of put your power down type of feel, either of these bikes are fantastic for that. The new Top Fuel does not change that. It's still the same Top Fuel. So taking a look at what they changed on this Top Fuel Gen 4 compared to the Gen 3 here. In terms of geometry, the seat tube is steepened, so it's slightly more forward, but that range is about half a degree, really not too much of a difference. The head tube angle is about the same. The main difference here is that the chainstay length grew by about 5 millimeters. Other frame details that I noticed is right here where this brake hose exits the frame, it makes more of a straight line coming into the chainstay, and then also it's internally routed inside the chainstay, which is really clean. Compare that to the Gen 3, where it pops out this port here, but then it actually kinks quite a bit. It has to come down quite a bit, and then is externally routed with zip ties here. It comes back there. So the new design is a lot sleeker and also reduces any kinking here at this cable, which is really nice. Something that is definitely improved over the previous generation is this iteration of internal storage for Trek. So the opening is a little bit bigger. It's actually longer. I don't think the width is much wider than the previous generation, but it is a little taller. And more of the down tube is usable. And you can fit 2 bags. They're now using a bag system. So one bag goes all the way up, comes out, and then the other bag goes all the way down. The previous generation Top Fuel has internal storage as well, but it's not nearly as refined. So if we take a look here, you have this burrito bag that you can pull out. Yeah, it's a little tight. There we go. Now the issue with this one is that there are internally routed cables, tube and tube routing, but they cross over down here, and it actually gets in the way of letting you put your bag or anything deeper into the frame. And same thing for going up. With this new one, it doesn't have the issue. The tubes are tucked right against the down tube, so you can utilize that entire space, which is really nice. This bike also has accessory mounts on the bottom of the frame, and the other change is that this now is a 4-position flip chip, where you can adjust the geometry high and low. That's the vertical positions, or the progressivity of the suspension, which is the forward and aft positions of the bolts. I rode it today in the low progressive setting here. Woo! And I found that it had really good bottom out resistance. The old Top Fuel doesn't have quite the same resistance against bottom out. And actually the new Top Fuel, the Gen 4, in this linear position is roughly the same in terms of leverage rate compared to the previous generation Top Fuel.
Trek did here with their flip chip is they made it wicked easy to access. Where on my bike, no offense to Santa Cruz, I love them, pain in the ass. So this is like mine, I have to take the wheel off, I have to undo a linkage bolt, and then I can tear it out and do it. This one you can just do in the parking lot. Yeah. So it's awesome.
This bike is also lighter than the previous generation. Trek says it's about 220 grams lighter, carbon to carbon as well as alloy to alloy. I think it, in some cases, maybe for the carbon, it may actually be more. I did a really quick weigh-in over at Goodale's, and it actually seemed like this 9.8 GX Axis top fuel Gen 4 with alloy wheels and this heavy GX group set weighed about 29 pounds without pedals, compared to my bike with custom wheels, XX T-type. It actually ended up weighing 29 pounds as well. So this is definitely giving this thing here a run for its money in terms of weight. I will admit, Top Fuel was never really about having the lightest bike out there. If you need the lightest bike, then you should probably be looking at something like a Super Caliber or some other cross-country bike. So looking at pros and cons for this bike, it has an excellent pedaling platform. It does have a little bit higher anti-squat compared to the previous generation, and I think I feel that. It shoots ahead a little bit more so than the previous generation, even with the alloy wheels, which I'll get to in a sec. But overall, yeah, the pedaling platform feels great, real stiff. I've made comparisons to the Pivot Trail 429 and how it feels. Honestly, I feel like they're pretty similar. Traction climbing is also fantastic. I think that longer chainstay length really helps it get up technical climbs without losing traction. This thing feels great through this kind of XC terrain for sure. Accelerates quickly, corners really well. One other major pro is having that progressive setting for the flip chip. That is a major improvement and much needed for aggressive riders or heavier riders like myself. While editing this video, I realized I didn't touch upon the descending capabilities of this bike, but overall, it still feels really good. The Gen 3 was no slouch going downhill. Could handle pretty fast stuff and get pretty technical before it felt overwhelmed. Here it's no different. In fact, maybe a hair better, again, with that extra progression that you can have with setting that flip chip, and a slightly longer wheelbase and a slightly longer chainstay. Here, the differences are very, very minimal. The new Top Fuel feels very similar to the previous Top Fuel on fast descents. All right, let's talk some cons right off the bat. This is more of a build-specific con. This is again, 9.8 GX Axis T-Type, retails MSRP for $7,000. And it comes with these Bontrager Line Comp 30 aluminum wheels. They get the job done, but at $7,000, they're woefully underspec'd. I think at this price point, they should be coming with either carbon wheels or at least something a little nicer than Bontrager Comp 30 rims. Another con, and this is less of a deal breaker, but still, for me at least, is kind of not ideal, are these SRAM level bronze brakes. These are the new stealth style, where the routing is kind of tucked in. Well, first off, I guess braking power is lacking. I know these are fresh brakes, but I think by the end of my ride today, I definitely had them bedded in, and they were still not grabbing nearly as well as I would want them to. The other thing is, man, these brake levers are noisy. They just clap around. These levers just flop around like crazy. So going down descents, your fingers are tapping these, and it's just making a ton of noise. Really distracting. All right, the other con for this bike, maybe not this one specifically since it's a medium large, but for the large and up, these bikes should really come with more than a 170 millimeter dropper. I took a look at their spec sheet, and it seems like for all the bikes, correct me if I'm wrong, for all the bikes, the largest dropper that comes on any size is 170. So for a large to XL, that just seems, to me, that seems unacceptable. You have this long insertion and you kind of underutilizing it here. So whoever's at Trek, I think, you know, you should put a 200 mil on. That's I think a bare minimum for size large, and definitely for XL. They could go even bigger. All right, moving on to some nitpicks. This is just really me being a little fussy. I think the color options for this model are a little bit on the bland side. They could use a little more variety or a little more pop. You have this silver color, which doesn't look too bad. This is a nice, clean look for sure. There's also like a red-ish flip fade color that changes, color shifts depending on the angle you're looking at it, which is pretty neat. Not too bad, but it's a little bit on the darker side for sure. And then there's a matte black with like a red accent model. Doesn't really do it for me, but again, kind of bland. But this is very nitpicky. I just wish there were some more interesting colors. I don't know, maybe something like that. All right, my final nitpick on this bike. The one slight detractor I noticed compared to the previous model, it's not quite as willing to pop up into the air. We're talking a small amount. It still jumps very easily, but the previous model got in the air really, really willingly. This one's just a little bit less so. Again, a very minor nitpick, because I think it just takes a little bit of time and getting used to, you know, changing my timing, jumping off of things. And again, the trade-off for having more traction, it's probably worth it. Just more of a rider adjustment on my end. So very minor nitpick, but something worth mentioning. Even though it's more versatile all around, right? You can run it as a 140, 130 bike. The changes they made with the lighter weight frame, slightly longer chainstay, which results in better climbing traction, and the higher anti-squat values, this bike feels more downcountry than the previous version, and is a little bit closer to that XC side. So overall, I think Trek's done a good job making this new Gen 4 top fuel a step up, more refined, more versatile. It definitely hasn't taken away from what the old top fuel was. So again, I keep saying it, but if you like the old top fuel, you like that feeling, you're gonna like this one. I guess the real question is, what is it worth upgrading to the new one? That is a question I'm struggling with. I'm not sure if I put my own hard-earned dollars out there for this new model. Still thinking about it. I think the biggest revelation I've taken away from this is that the medium large actually feels really, really good for me. And I think in the future I will most likely be downsizing to a medium large. The anti-squat and, you know, the higher progression, I can take it or leave it. The difference is fairly small still relative to the old top fuel. The old top fuel is still a great bike, don't get me wrong. So if you can find a Gen 3 on sale, that might be the move. But if you really like the Gen 4 and all the improvements they made to it, I can't fault you for that. It's still gonna be a really good one. All right, thanks for sticking around on my full review of this Trek Top Fuel Gen 4. This is my first time doing a review like this. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, I appreciate that. If you didn't, give me some constructive feedback in the comments. I'll definitely take that into consideration if there's a next one. But this was fun, and shout out Goodales again for letting me borrow this bike. Definitely couldn't have done it without them. And if you guys are local to the Nashua, New Hampshire area, definitely check them out. They got a great selection of Trek bikes, and they'll definitely take care of you on the service side as well for any bike, regardless whether it's Trek or not. Go have fun and ride some bikes.